So you're joining us in Pingtung County today. We've been fighting through all this undergrowth and this shrubbery here to get to this grave. Now this is a typical family grave you can find all over Taiwan, and according to the headstone behind me, the person in this grave died in 1971. Let's take a closer look. So we fooled you at the beginning. You thought we were going into a grave, but these tunnels have been disguised as tombstone entrances, so as not to draw attention. Pretty clever. The first of our adventures today in a network of tunnels in southern Taiwan in Pingtung County, and most of them are built by the Japanese, but this one is constructed by the KMT, sort of in the 50s, 60s and 70s. So basically this network of tunnels is really a network of rat runs, so troops can get between defensive positions around the countryside, and it's quite extensive. This set of bunkers is located on an orchard, and the orchard has been abandoned, so now we've got kind of like an overgrown jungly mess above us. So a lot of these bunkers are so old that they've caved in, but it's still interesting to see the rat runs that used to be part of the KMT's defensive position. Now this initial bunker we're in is just one of many. The Japanese built many bunkers in the mountains and the plains here to repel an invasion by the Allies during World War II. In the same area as the fake grave, there is a fake Tudhigong Temple. This entrance, well, the entrance to the temple leads to a defensive fortified gun emplacement which protects one of the entrances into the valley here. We're going to have a look and go through the passages to that gun emplacement right now. Pillbox, and you see here there's a machine gun mount, and the soldiers would have looked out of this gap here, and there's places to rest. Also some machine guns here as well. This here is a fortified command centre built by the Japanese during World War II, and it commanded the artillery positions on the other side of the mountain. And that gives it protection from the advancing Allied artillery shells and also the advancing forces which are coming from the coast and across the plains on the other side of the mountain. So at each end of this complex there are some toilets for the soldiers that were based here. You can see some rudimentary concrete urinals on this side, and on the other side there are equally rudimentary squat toilets. Now these are for the regular soldiers. Behind me here is a cubicle for the officers, and they would have used this cubicle here. A bit of privacy. During 1944, plans were drawn up to invade Taiwan using 4 beachheads in the south of Taiwan. US forces would land at the beachheads and slowly work their way north towards Taipei. It's an old World War II Japanese artillery position, and it would have fired artillery shells over the plains of Pingtung County to repel an Allied invasion during World War II. Inside would have been a large artillery gun, and behind the gun is a network of tunnels and passageways to support this position. It is estimated that 500,000 US troops would have been required to take the island, as well as 8,000 aircraft and over 3,000 naval vessels. You can see this huge emplacement here where they would have anchored a large artillery gun. And behind me in this passageway, a truck would have reversed either to supply ammo or to bring the gun to its position. Operation Causeway would have led to the largest ambush in human history. At a minimum, it is estimated that 150,000 US troops will have been slaughtered by the Japanese strongholds dug into these mountains. You still see some of the old couplings here, some of the old pulley systems, and some of the etching into the concrete. But it is pretty much as it was when it was first designed and placed here by the Japanese. The Japanese found out about the planned invasion, which is why this very extensive bunker complex was crafted into the mountains. The Japanese would likely have let the American forces land unopposed, allowing them to collect and organize themselves. They would have waited for supply ships to come within range. Where I'm standing now is the top lookout post of the bunker system and the artillery system, which is all underneath me, hidden within this mountain. And you can see, it's a rainy day today, but you can see there would have been a great view all the way to the coast, and the soldiers and military, or the infantry soldiers in this lookout post would be able to see all the way to the coast and see any advancing forces coming into the mainland. In the end, Operation Causeway was put on hold, and thankfully so. The amount of Allied and Japanese casualties will have been astronomical, not to mention the civilian casualties caught up in the fighting. The tunnel system will have allowed guerrilla warfare to rage on for months and months. So right now we're inside the lookout post, and just here is a set of steel rung ladders that go right down into the side, into the inside of the mountain, and the whole mountain is actually hollowed out with bunkers. So it's going to be interesting to go down and have a look. So the trouble with some of these places, the further you go in, the more it gets flooded. So watch your step a little bit and try not to slip over. That huge spider there, can you get that? It's running across the water. Look at it. Okay, so what is quite amazing about this place is the bats on the ceiling. It's just like it's like a carpet of bats, and they're not flying away. I think it's because there's safety in numbers. If you get 2 or 3 individual bats just hanging around on the roof, they tend to fly off. But you see these bats, they're right over me. There's a couple have flown away here, and that one there as well, but on the whole, they're just remaining where they are. And you see they go all the way down there to the end of the tunnel, just packed with bats, and of course at night time, well, at dusk, they'll all fly out of the entrance. But it's amazing that you can get so close to these. You can literally reach out and grab them. I'm not scared at all. The sheer number of bats in these tunnels is staggering. Taiwan has about the same number of bat species as Japan, a nation 10 times its size, and also has a higher density of bat species than Europe and North America. We've been filming the bats for about 2 minutes now, and we've started to disturb them. A few of them are flying around. So we've come away, give them a chance to calm down, and give them a chance to go back to roost. We've also turned off the lights and gone to night vision. When it's dark, all the creepy crawlies come out. You see this huge spider here. Some of them are much bigger than this, some of them are as big as your hand. This one's just a tiny one. So there's another bunker entrance where there's another artillery platform, and we're going to go down this passageway here to try and find it. Now I've found it on the outside already, just walk around the mountain and the entrance is there, but we're going to go through these passageways. I haven't been down here before, so this is a first for me. So what you're seeing for the first time is also what I'm seeing for the first time. So let's have a look. Let's go for it. It's going to be good. You ready, Colin? Ready. So right above me here, some tiny bats, look, really small. I can actually pick them up. They're safe to pick up because they can't bite through your skin, and the jaws aren't powerful enough when they're this small. It's quite amazing to think that all these tunnels were etched out by hand by the Japanese over 70 years ago. Let's go. Here's an example of a Japanese pillbox which was converted into a KMT military pillbox after World War II. This pillbox was built in 1945, and when the KMT arrived, they commandeered this pillbox and changed it into a defensive position for their military. These platforms used to be about this high because the Japanese used guns which were different to the KMT. When the KMT used their guns, their stands were a lot higher, so they cut down these concrete platforms and they modified this pillbox for their own use. Also in the bunker there's some evidence of some creepy residents. This is some snakeskin. The problem with a lot of these gun emplacements and the tunnels connecting them is that a lot of the tunnels have collapsed, which means it's really dangerous for us to go in. Now this one has collapsed behind me, but we're going to try and get through. There's a way through, so we'll see how far we can get. I see. You see that's totally blocked off there as well, so they've blocked this tunnel off halfway through, so they've made the best of the two emplacements. So if any enemy military comes from that direction, they can defend this whole place here. But on the right here, there's another passageway, so we're going to have a look down here, see what we can find. What we found here is a defensive position inside the tunnel, whereby if an entrance was breached by the enemy, what they would have done here is defend this tunnel using one of these concrete emplacements here. You can see there's a gap here, there's a hole for a machine gun, so it would have been able to aim at enemy soldiers coming down this tunnel.
It is difficult to imagine that there are several kilometres of tunnels dug into the mountains here. The bunkers and artillery positions are impossible to see from the air and very difficult to see from the ground. A bombardment of the mountainside from the ocean by naval vessels would have had little effect, seeing as the tunnels are dug so deeply into the mountainside. Upon invasion, the true extent of this tunnel complex would have been discovered far too late for advancing Allied soldiers, as they would have had encountered a formidable nest of firepower from the waiting Japanese infantry.
Yeah, are you okay, Colin?
Yeah, fine.
All right, man, let's go. Yeah, so this has got a lot narrower. This is very, very narrow, very humid in here as we go further in the tunnel. There's a bit of open space here, so we'll go and see what we can find. So you can see how tight and squeezed these passageways are. So just imagine being back in World War II, being a soldier here, a Japanese soldier, protecting this bunker from Allied attack. And imagine attacking this bunker. Imagine coming down these passageways and being the first one to this machine gun post here, where they can fire directly at you as you come around this corner. The carnage and the horror of going into these confined spaces during a war, facing intense machine gun fire and opposition. Luckily, it didn't happen in Taiwan. Ground troops never landed in Taiwan to take the island. But if they did, then we would have had the same situation as in Okinawa and in Saipan, where thousands of troops on each side died in tunnels like this. Okay, so we're quite a way in on this network of tunnels, and it's quite a surprisingly long network. What we found here is what would have been used as a drinking water portal. They would have had fresh water in this concrete sink. I guess you can call it a sink. So for if the soldiers need to stay down here for any prolonged period of time, they've got fresh water to drink. Right, so this is the bunker that we've just been in, and from the outside it just looks like a normal pillbox, but the tunnels extend so far in, as you can see from the video, and they're so narrow, and I dread to think what it would have been like in World War II if you had to be stationed in one of these and you are in a defensive position with the enemy attacking. It must have been absolutely terrifying. There are no advantages to being 6'3" in these caverns. It's really low here, but I can see it seems to be like a cavern at the end. So I'll work our way to that, see what we can find down there. It's actually gone on for a really long time. And it's actually really hot in here. It's sweating, it's very humid. I'd say it's about 30, 32 degrees underground at the moment in these tunnels. Quite amazing to see how these bunkers have been crafted out by hand tools, by the use of hand tools in such a short time really, just towards the end of World War II. So along the main passages, there's other small passages and offshoots which go up to other gun emplacements. So we're just going to check one out up here. It's very narrow again, and we're going to crawl up here and see what we can see. Alright, so we've gone a fair way down the passage and scrambled up some slopes, so we've come to a set of stairs. So we'll go up the stairs and see what we can find up there. You see the stairs go on probably for 3 or 4 floors. So it's an underground bunker of about 4 floors in height. So we are in one of the fortified gun emplacements for this tunnel system. And what's interesting in this emplacement is these window blockers here. So what would happen is if there were 1 or 2 infantrymen here defending this fortification, and a rifleman was shooting in that direction, and he couldn't look in this direction, what he would do, he would block one of these windows up with these concrete blocks here. So he was safe from attack from this side.
The markings on the gun platform are from 2 different eras. The Japanese used a gun mount which anchored in under the window of the pillbox using slots. The KMT used a different mount which anchored the gun using indents carved into the rear of the platform.
In some places along these passages there are storage areas for bombs and ammunition, and also for rifles, and these are strategically placed so they are at junctions of easy access throughout the bunker system. So this here is an intersection in the tunnel complex, and just there we have a ventilation shaft, and that purpose of that is to ventilate this huge ammo storage here. Now the trouble is that the tunnels often get very damp and they can make the ammo go bad and unusable, so they have the ventilation shaft here to keep the ammo dry and well ventilated. You see this ammo storage area is actually pretty deep, pretty big. We're very, very deep inside the last bunker system. And here is a water procurement area. And the special thing about this is they've designed it, the engineers have designed it so it never overflows, but it's always full. And even after 70 or 80 years after being constructed, the water is level, exactly level with the surface here. I think that's pretty amazing. Great engineering for the time. It's incredible, there's so many bats flying around here. It's actually windy in this tunnel because all of the wind off the wings is making it nice and fresh. See, people are scared of bats, but they're actually no harm at all. They're not going to hurt you, except there's a bit of disease associated with them, and with their bat droppings there's a kind of fungus which exists in the bat droppings. So if you breathe it in, it can cause some people some problems. Yeah, this is quite amazing.
Destruction of these bunkers will mean loss of habitat for many tens of thousands of bats.
Really interesting discovery, and it's a shame that in the next couple of years it's going to be dug out and replaced by a solar panel farm. It's not ideal, really.
The land on which much of these tunnel complexes exist has been bought up by investment companies who wish to tap into Taiwan's lucrative green energy initiative. Thousands of solar panels will be placed on this land, and the bunkers will be eradicated. It also seems incredible to me that in order to protect the environment, huge areas of lush jungles and farms need to be bulldozed, and even mountains need to be leveled to build solar panel farms, which will be active only for a relatively short period of time. An effort to preserve this bunker complex would not only help to protect one of World War II's most forgotten but most important historical sites, it could bring in tourism from around the world. The cost-benefit of these projects, I fear, is running a deficit. Little environmental protection is gained from ruining the environment in the first place, and the cultural heritage preserved secretly in these footholds, once lost, will be lost forever. It's ironic that to save the environment, these companies are ruining the environment.